Hello everyone, my name is Alicia. I've been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and in this series I talk about the 9 diagnostic criteria for BPD. I share my understanding of them, my experiences with them, and tell you about what helps me cope. So here we go. The diagnostic criterion number 3, at least on this list, identity disturbance, markedly and persistently unstable self-image or sense of self. This one is pretty hard to put into words, but if you have it, you probably instantly got what it was just from that short sentence. Here's a quote from a study that I recently read. According to Kornberg, patients with BPD experience the so-called splits in their affect and thinking, known as identity diffusion, which manifests with contradictory character traits, discontinuity of the self, and either very idealized or devalued object relations. Seems to me like an entangled big ball of confusion, but somehow it makes complete sense. And I think once again goes back to the fear of abandonment. Imagine living with that fear since you were a very small child. What would you focus on? Making sure that abandonment doesn't happen, right? Because when you're little, you cannot survive on your own. So that fear is intensified by the very real danger of dying because you've been abandoned. And how to avoid being abandoned? You would need to know very well what others in your family need and want from you. So you develop kind of perfect emotional pitch. You learn to read micro expressions long before you even find out that they exist. All of your attention is on the emotions and moods of others all the time. An unfortunate byproduct of that is that you don't have the time, the confidence, and the freedom to explore your own inner world. You know that trope of the girl with BPD who keeps changing her hair? One day it's pink, next day it's blue. Sometimes she just forgets to wash it, and then she just goes and shaves it all off. It shows a deeper sense of fluidity through something physical and obvious. That's why it's so popular in films. In reality, of course, all people have some fluidity. Most of us don't listen to the same music or wear the same hairstyle their whole life. There is no such thing as an acceptable length of time to be interested in a subculture. So the question is, how does your level of fluidity make you feel? Are you just experimenting? Or are you frantically trying to adjust to the people in your life so that you don't lose them? Do you feel like you're a completely different person around different people? Do you find it hard to interact with several of your friends at the same time? Do you seem to hold different values depending on who you're with? And more importantly, does that make you feel uncomfortable and uneasy? Because everything exists on a spectrum, the question to ask is always, does this affect my life in a negative way? If the answer is yes, then you should consider going to therapy or seeking some kind of help or reading up on it. So in time, this ability to adapt turns into a habit. It starts to seem like there is no other way to exist. And we grow up forgetting to check in with ourselves, to find out what it is we want and like. And somehow that transforms into not knowing who we are at all. If you ask someone with BPD if they know who they are, they might not be able to put their answer into words eloquently, but they immediately know what you mean. Although, let's face it, most boardies are really eloquent. Here's an example of what I'm talking about here. I once got the idea of writing a memoir. My life has been pretty interesting and diverse so far. I have lived in different countries, tried different jobs, met a whole lot of interesting people, so I thought I'd give it a try. I wrote several chapters, but I quickly realized that there was nothing holding them together. It was as if every chapter was written about and by a different person. One may argue that everyone changes throughout their life, and that is true. But once again, there is a spectrum. There are people trying new things, and then there's Patrick Bateman saying, "I simply am not there." Patrick Bateman, of course, is an extreme, grotesque character version of a person who might have a personality disorder and is probably psychotic. He is a character in an absurdist film, but that "I simply am not there" that he says while peeling a mask off his face, iconic. It is scary not knowing who you are. Scarier still if you're not even sure that you exist. But as ever, there are things that can be done that may help. Deep as this criterion runs, DBT faces it with fearless practicality. Number 1, practice checking in with yourself regularly. Start with the basics. Are you cold? Put on some socks. Are you hot? Open a window. Have you had enough water today? The answer to that is never yes, so go and drink some water. Now. I'm watching you. Are you hungry? Is it time to eat something? Are you sitting comfortably, or should you shift? Or maybe you need some movement right now. Number 2, check in with your stress levels as often as you can. I have a video on DBT high tension skills. It goes more into detail on how to do that and what to do when your tension or stress levels are too high. You'll find the link below. Number 3, it's a tough one. Listen to your emotions and let them happen. Sit with them. Allow them to be waves that they are. If you want to get to know another person, you have to let them speak. It's the same with getting to know yourself, because there is a you. However you might feel at the moment, you are a real person that has everything that constitutes a real person. You've just been disconnected from yourself for too long. Number 4, ask yourself about your likes and your dislikes. I remember realizing that I have been dressing for others my whole life. So one day, I sat down and asked myself, if there were no limitations or dress codes, what would I actually enjoy wearing? A few days later, I bought myself a pair of Doc Martens. That was before every basic being started wearing them. I still love them though. Become a philosopher and question everything. Whenever someone asks you what kind of tea or what kind of music or which wallpaper you like, before that automatic response comes out of your mouth, stop and really think about it, even if it's a really small thing. This will help you to come up with the things that make you feel better while doing DBT. All of these exercises, they have to do with little things, but as you do them regularly over time, you kind of learn to hear yourself better. And little by little, the bigger things will follow, like, your values, and they will fall into place. At least that's the idea. I wanted to add just one more thing. In the beginning of this video, I talked about reading microexpressions and understanding what people feel and think. This sounds cool, but it can also be very dangerous. Studies have shown that patients with BPD often see neutral facial expressions as angry or negative in some other way. So our mind reading doesn't really work as well as we'd like it to. It is one of those defense mechanisms that so often malfunction, and we end up hurting ourselves or others. We don't want that to happen, so try to shift the focus from others to yourself as often as you can. It is not egocentric. You are learning about who you are, and that is a good thing. People want to know you. They want to have meaningful connections with you. And that's not possible unless you can be yourself. And to do that, you have to know yourself. I mean, listen to the ancient Greeks, people. They knew stuff. So go ahead and explore, and I hope this helps. This is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you, or rather at you, again soon. Bye!